Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. So once again, just kind of doing this new format, diving right into it today. We're hanging out with Mr. Seb. Do you mind going by the full name? Just Seb's okay? What do you usually go by? Do you have an alias? Do you have a superhero undercover name?
I would say, yeah, Seb's fine. Seb is fine. Hello everyone. Thank you, Nick, for having me on the podcast today. I'm super stoked. But yeah, Seb's the name. And I would say if I had to pick a superhero, be my alias, maybe Batman. Sure, Batman or Spider-Man.
Two of the most recognizables on the entire planet, yeah. Not going to be talking about Batman, Spider-Man, or even any comic book character today, at least not their origins in comic books, because there are Star Wars comics. And there we go, now bearing the lead, we talk about Star Wars. Kind of an overarching thing. There was once a plan on this show to educate and kind of like come with facts and stuff, but nah, I'm just going to be shooting the shit, smoking some weed, hanging out, talking about Star Wars. So if that's the thing you're interested in, we got at least like 45 minutes of an hour of that shit coming to you. So thank you. Welcome, Buds, Bros, and Superheroes. So episode of Seb's going to kind of start right now.
All right, Nick, thank you for having me again. Yeah, Star Wars. I think we were talking about before just kind of the difference in our time frame of experiencing Star Wars.
Just move that one a little bit closer to you.
This one, okay. Yeah, just our time frame of like experiencing Star Wars, I guess, is a little bit different. I was born in 2000 in Scranton, for those of you who don't know. And yeah, I mean...
So by then, you had already had 4, 5, 6, and number 1 had literally just premiered. There's no way you were going to see 2 or 3 in the theater. Meanwhile, I had grown up on 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, and 3, I remember specifically seeing The Phantom Menace with Joey Madden and his father at the Roselle Park movie theater. To this day, it's a joke in my house, actually. So you kind of said something earlier that I related to a lot of. Going to the movies was something the family did. Right, so the 4 of us, the Platonic family, everyone there, would definitely make Harry Potter a thing. The Matrix, those ended up being a thing. So like, there was definitely stuff that all 4 of us would go to and shit like that. Star Wars was me and my dad, though. Kind of, we'd watch 4, 5, and 6. How could we set up for something? Anyway, we used to go to the movies all the time. I went with Joey Madden this one time, and to this day, like if I see a new movie, I'll be like, "Did you see this?" And he goes, "No, I didn't see it yet." Who'd you go to the movies with, Joey Madden? Because that was the one time I didn't go with my dad. So I think that's a funny anecdote.
Yeah. I was definitely big on going to movies like with my grandma, my mom. Not so much my dad. I feel like I would watch movies with my dad more so at home than anything. But definitely like around Christmas time, going to see Star Wars, all the basic stuff. I remember as like a kid, Bug's Life was a big one in my childhood. Man, just so many nostalgic memories. Cars, just everything. Star Wars was more so at home viewing. I mean, the in theater viewing came more when I was like 16 or 17, and the newer ones, the last 3 of the 9 were coming out. I feel like I was going to the theater more to see those. Yeah.
So with that, the 9 of them are basically what we're going to, I don't want to say run through, but like, how do you feel about is what we're going to go through almost? Would you like to go by episode or release date?
Let's go by release date.
Great.
I like that, yeah.
Because the thing that kills me up until this day is that you'll find fuckers who think that the first movie ever released was called Star Wars. And it's not true. The first episode ever is called Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope. If anybody out there likes Mr. Sunday movies, they'll know that when they shot the movie, do you know what the original title, what they shot it under to kind of keep it under wraps?
No, I don't.
It's what they called the Family Guy movie when they first make fun of Episode 4.
Which I also don't remember.
Blue Harvest.
Okay, that was actually supposed to be the name.
It's at least what they shot it under, because at first, Star Wars has like a very long history of George Lucas and wanting to kind of get it out. Like if George Lucas had it his way, he would have been like a race car driver. But he got into a terrible accident and things just went the way in which, making kind of created his own new rush and Star Wars was born. But we can't go through all of that. But if you want to, you got to read or listen to a book There's How Star Wars Rules the Universe. This guy who wrote it had to go and find a very, what's the word? I don't want to say discreet. That's not the exact word. A very, they are far away. They are not around other people. What is the word I'm looking for?
For somebody like actually
Like a group of people to be so
like,
far away from all of society. They're located on their own.
recluse?
Okay, that'll work. You know, there's somebody out there. No, there is only one person out there listening. It's my mom, and she's saying the word out loud right now. But we'll eventually circle back. Anyway, they are so far disassociated with current society. This is the guy who we had to go to, like the people to go to be like, have you ever heard of Star Wars? And they're like, no. Because he'd find people who like, hey, do you know anything about Star Wars? And they're like, no, I know nothing about
almost
Star
like
Wars.
Finding a jury.
And they're like, have you seen anything? They're like, I've never seen an episode of Star Wars. And they're like, all right, so you know nothing. And they're like, well, I know like Darth Vader, and Darth Vader's like Luke's dad, and like Princess Leia, and lightsabers, and like, Han Solo and Chewie, and like they could just name shit because Star Wars has fucking sunken into the pop culture of America, like whether or not, my mom doesn't know a lot about Star Wars, if anything, knows everything I just said. Can she tell you the name of Boba Fett's ship? No. But Star Wars, like Luke Skywalker? Yeah. Leia Skywalker, like shit like that. Anyway. So the first one, wow, see that tangent? This weed is good. This is Space HK. The first one, Blue Harvest. Anyway, it's called New Hope. How do you kind of have any remembering of the first time seeing it?
I would say, the first time seeing it, not so much. But I would say that the fourth episode for me, well, I call it the fourth. See, that just proves our point right there, I guess.
It is episode 4. He started in the middle for some fucking reason.
Yeah. It's not my favorite. I'm gonna be honest. It's just not my favorite. If I had to pick my favorite, it would definitely be 5, because I feel like it kind of starts off where 4 left. I like the ending of 4, but I feel like the beginning is just, it's anticlimactic for me. It's just, it's older. I get the whole like nostalgia factor for everybody who got to experience it, for what it was in the theater, like you said, and probably back in the day, like, oh, new movie, Star Wars is out, like, this is so cool.
It was a fucking phenomena in 77 when the first one came out. It was beyond a phenomena. I mean, people had never seen shit like that. Jaws had come out. The idea of a quote-unquote blockbuster was established and stuff like that. But, I mean, it created a culture. I think Trekkies were a thing by then. So, like, this idea of taking fandom to the next level of more than just liking it, of like dressing up like it, like going to shows ready for it, had kind of wasn't a new thing, but Star Wars definitely took it to a level that still to this day continues.
Right. I was going to kind of say that earlier when we were talking about like the social impact of Star Wars, like especially nowadays with social media and how popular it is and how everybody's just on social media. The memes of like, especially like Baby Yoda. Like I remember Baby Yoda when Mandalorian first came out. That was like, just an explosion of like.
Nobody could have watched The Mandalorian, but they know Baby Yoda.
Yeah, and everybody just thinks he's cute. Like he's just this little.
How could you not?
Animatronic doll. Like it's just so.
He's probably mostly puppets. Yes.
That doll is like $250,000 from what I've heard. It's very...
That makes sense. To be honest, I think that's pretty cheap. $250,000, like, obviously we're sitting in this house, so it's not something I have. However, when you think about a production budget, like $250,000, sometimes that they probably have a bigger fucking craft service over the entire set.
Yeah. Like
the whole set of it.
Yeah, I mean, Baby Yoda, like I said, Baby Yoda was just like an explosion of memes right from the jump. I know we even talked about like Family Guy and just like this whole like impact that Star Wars just had from the jump, man. It's crazy. It's actually crazy, and it still holds true to this day. Like, what the first episode's like 50 years old almost, or
77.
77. So Yeah, like 46 years old, right? That's wild.
It's been a while since it came out.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at Mark Hamill now. Unfortunately, we lost Carrie Fisher. Harrison Ford's not looking too bad.
I just watched that new Indiana Jones, and I remember we talked, and I was not a fan of the movie, but, you know, he was just, he wasn't looking the best. And to have him moving around like that was just...
He's got to be in his 80s now, though. So, like, yeah, it's Weekend at Bernie's almost. But when he came out in that, he was a carpenter. When I say that, I mean episode 4. He met him as a carpenter. George, meaning, so George and Han, his real name's Harrison, met each other and stuff like that. 1977 is when that film came out. I enjoy it even to this day. Like you were talking about nostalgia, like my first introduction to it was a box set of VHS tapes. You know what a VHS tape is, right?
Yes.
I'm kidding.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyway, these are the original ones that my dad owned. And I just remember watching them on Access and keeping Star Wars so close to me that, like, it's so nerdy that I'd be like, yeah, you know, like, no, I'm going to go home. I'm going to see some friends. And, like, that's what I meant. I was going to go home and watch Star Wars because I was in the middle of doing it that day or something like that. 4 is also directed by George Lucas, scored by John Williams. So, like, that epic score, John Williams is somebody who, like, to this day, if I had, like, 3 people who can maybe score my life, it'd be John Williams, Danny Elfman, or Alan Silvestri. They're, like, the top 3 greatest, if you ever ask me. John Williams is also Harry Potter theme, Jaws theme,
Now, John
Superman
Williams
theme.
was a director?
No, composer.
The
He
composer
is a composer.
Who makes all of the epic music that we always
Like the
reference.
opening.
Okay, cool. Yes, that's what I thought.
Yeah, and the bump. That's him.
That was beautiful.
It was pretty good actually. He's the man. Trying to think. So we get kind of set up in it. I'd have to agree. 4 is not exactly my favorite, though. 5 is also my favorite. Then one is Empire Strikes Back, came out in '80, directed by Irving Kershner. That one, better everything, man. It's.
Yeah, my first introduction to 5 and most Star Wars that I actually forgot about mostly was through Lego sets, man. Like, honestly, when I was a little kid, I just remember building Lego sets. I recently told you that I did, like, Lego reviews. I recorded over a lot of my mom's home videos. I know she is also going to watch the podcast tonight, so, Mom, sorry for ruining the home video camera. But yeah, just I like 5 because I remember Lego Star Wars on the PlayStation 2, and a lot of the sets that I had. I just loved the Hoth scenes. Like, I loved is it an AT-AT walker? Yeah, so I love those, and I also like the scene where Luke, like, wraps around the feet of one and trips it in the snow. I always thought that was cool.
I want to say it's an all-terrestrial attack tank, but I don't think that's correct. I don't think I'm getting one of the things
The
right.
AT-AT is the big one.
The big
That is
walker.
confirmed.
Oh, I'm positive it's an AT-AT. Yes, but I couldn't tell you
All right.
the exact acronym for what that. I want to say it's those things, but I feel like attack tank is wrong.
And-
I'm positive all terrestrial. Shit, I don't know. I just know for, like, Star Wars and Legos, I still to this day go down the Target lines and I see those and I'm like,
Yeah,
I want an AT-AT. Why not? I'm close to
I always
it.
go to Target with my friends, and I always say, first things first, we're checking the Legos.
Yep.
You just stand there in admiration. They're expensive now, though.
Oh, they are. They're dumb expensive.
They're like, I think the R2D2 is almost $230 or something like that. Like, it's
Some of them are dope, though. You could build a lot of helmets now. Like, you
Yeah,
could build Boba
display
Fett's helmet,
helmets.
yeah, out of Legos, and
they're
I
pretty
think
cool.
that's kind of cool.
I think you could plug some of them in. They might have like a light display as well. But I just saw, speaking of episode 5 and Lego sets, the Dagobah system display set looks so cool. And it's definitely one that I have my eye on. I feel like that might, like, spark my love for Legos again, man. Because I did get the
If you do it, let me film you like do it, and then I'll put it into fast pace so it looks like a Lego commercial. It's like,
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, and kind of how they would build stuff in the video game, which I was just going to talk about. The video game on Switch, the new Lego Star Wars: The Complete Saga. That one is open world. It's got all 9 episodes on it. It's very complicated, but definitely nostalgic, man. Definitely a good time.
a few things to unpack there. We got to look it up, and if I can find it, I'll share it. It was a guy who had a frog. Maybe it was a lizard. He had some sort of amphibian, and he made its terrarium into Dagobah with like crashed X-Wing, Yoda hiding in one of the trees, like bunch of moss and shit like that. Like, it was very cool. Yoda was introduced in that one, which was fun. Very, very puppety in that. So when you go back and watch the originals, you really are like, oh, fuck, that's a puppet. It's actually worked by Frank Oz, who is one of the greatest puppeteers ever. Rest in peace. He got his start on Sesame Street. Jim Henson taught him how to puppeteer, and like, not even taught him. They learned together. It's
Jim Haas?
Jim Henson?
Jim Henson, okay.
Taught Frank Oz. They worked together. Yeah, Frank Oz puppeteers Yoda.
Oh, okay. So he's just this legendary puppeteer. So would you say he's a better puppeteer than Geppetto?
Yeah. Those are marionettes. That's not a puppet.
You wouldn't consider that a puppet? That's not a puppeteer, though?
Oh, boy, splitting hairs. No, a puppeteer, I feel, uses hands. The marionette has to know how to do the...
He's a puppeteer.
He's a puppeteer, yeah. Whether or not he can use marionettes, I don't know. That's a whole different skill set. There's strings and shit, man. I don't know. During this episode, I'm also trying to stay super open with everybody as we record, just so they know, no production, no cuts, no edits, no nothing like that. It all gets uploaded. Anyway, it's all suffice it to say, right now, all 3 dogs are down here with us, and one of them just got up in Seb's face. So, like, if you're hearing dog stuff tonight, guys, the dogs are with us. There's no babysitter for them. Apologies, but that is what it is.
Drake is dropping a new album tonight for all the dogs, so it does make sense.
Is that what it's called?
I swear to God, that's what it's called.
I fucking love it then. It makes sense that we have all the dogs right now, all 3 of them.
All dogs in the house.
To this day, recorded in 2023, you could still find current uploaded videos, of children experiencing episode 5 for the first time, especially the one moment, when we are on the Cloud City of
Cloud City. Oh my God, where they rescue Han Solo in the is it carbonite?
He gets frozen in carbonite in this city and then taken away by Boba Fett.
I do not have a name right now.
Oh, I'm so close. It's on the tip of my tongue. See, at least our moms aren't Star Wars nerds where they're sitting there going, come on, it's Lando Calrissian City. Come on, Nick, where is it? I'm also named Nick, so anybody listening who's like, I'm not trying to drag it out of you. Come on, man. Cloud City. Come on, don't make me look it up. I don't want to look it up. Anyway.
You don't have to look it up. It's all good.
It'll come to me. It'll eventually come to me. We're there. Vader's there. He snuck up on everybody. Exactly. That's when it'll come back to me. Vader snuck up on everybody. Shit is just going south really, really quickly. And that's kind of the reason I like the movie, because it ends in a really pretty dark place. Luke Skywalker is fighting Vader, loses a hand, and we find out this truth. Now, this is a spoiler that's almost 50 years old now. So 1980 to right now. We're talking about 43.
Do you know what he actually says when he cuts off Luke's hand, though?
What do you mean?
I feel like there's a common misconception with this. So, like, everybody thinks it's Luke, I am your father. But it's not. It's no, I am your father. He never says Luke.
Yes.
So that's just been like a Mandela effect, almost.
Totally.
In the Star Wars community.
There's not a father around who has a son named Luke who hasn't once said, Luke, I am your father. Where no, you're right. The answer is no, I am your father. No! That's impossible.
And then he falls into a hole and like hangs on some sort of like pole or something, and the Millennium Falcon
comes and finds him. Yeah, because Leia can force feel him. We didn't have those words those, and I say we as Star Wars nerds, didn't have those types of words to say what it was, but it was a forced feel. How'd you always feel? You know, we were talking about it the other day. I don't know if it was actually you and I, but like about an overarching plan between the sets of movies. We have talked about 3 trilogies. They came out 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. And 4, I think out of all of them, the prequels, as they're known, 1, 2, and 3 has a beginning and an end point. 4, 5, and 6 every now and then can kind of feel like choppy. I.e., in number 4, I don't think they knew that Leia was going to be the sister. Because there's like that weird triangle that they're pushing, stuff like that later comes on. They're like, no, actually, where they saved themselves. 7, 8, 9, we'll get to eventually in the longer talk. A little bit of a mess, if you ask me. Don't know if they knew what was happening. Agree. But 1, 2, and 3 has a pretty straight story. So in 5, when at the very end, she's like, I can feel him. They're like, yeah, it's because he's the brother and sister. But if you watch it, it's like, I don't know. She kissed him at the beginning of that movie to make Han jealous as he walked away, right? After they got saved from the snow beast and shit like that at the beginning on Hoth. Every time it's cold, I go, shit, it's Hoth cold out today. So I'm happy we can both enjoy that.
I saw a meme yesterday that kind of touched base on this subject. And it was basically just showing like the differences between Anakin and Luke Skywalker. And it was like Anakin flipped a whole army against an entire rebel army and was a great Jedi and turned into Darth Vader, killed his master, and Luke just kissed his sister. Didn't really achieve anything, if you ask me. He just kind of, I don't know.
So 2 Marvel crossovers I wanted to talk about really quick as we're also on Hoth and number 5. If you've seen Captain America Civil War.
I did. I think I only saw it once or twice, though.
Spoilers for you and anybody else. Ant-Man is in that, and he becomes Ant-Man, so Giant Man, and he's super tall. And all the guys are like, I don't know how to beat him. And Peter Parker, who is at this point a kid, says, has anybody ever seen this really old movie called The Empire Strikes Back? And Brody's like, Jesus, how old is this kid? Anyway, he's like, do anybody remember the scene with the giant robots in the snow? And they're like, all right, kid, I see what you're doing. And he ties up his legs, and then they kick him and knock him down. And I like that because I like crossing streams like that. 2 is, during that phase of Marvel, every movie contains somebody losing a left hand in homage to Luke losing his hand. In that
phase of Marvel?
Yes.
Really?
So name a movie in that phase, and you can find somebody who loses their left hand, which should be phase 2.
So that was which Thor movie came out around that time?
Thor, The Dark World, in which he has everybody convinced through a barrage of Loki's magic that he has cut off his head when Mjolnir was coming to him, when they're trying to fool the elves. Guardians of the Galaxy, Nebula cuts off her own hand. I never
saw Guardians of the Galaxy.
The first one is so worth it, bro. The second one's trash. The third one's fine.
Everybody says that, and I never got the time. I'm not a huge Marvel person. I'm more of a DC, honestly.
Fucking love that.
I love DC. I like The Dark Knight and Batman a lot. Now Spider-Man's an exception to that. Spider-Man is dope. I actually like Venom a little bit more than Spider-Man. I'm always big on the villain, I feel like, more than the protagonist, right? Yeah.
Correct. Yep. Yes, because an antagonist can only be as good as their protagonist, or vice versa. They usually say, Luke Skywalker only looks so good and is remembered so well in 4, 5, and 6, because that's the motherfucker who took down Vader eventually. I mean, technically. So let's talk about that. We'll go into 6. I can never remember the director's name. I feel bad for him because I remember everybody else. I should look it up, I guess. But it is called Where 5 Ended All Sad and Shit. 6 ends like 6 growing up was my favorite. It took me a while to kind of assess more. Because growing up, again, you get to the Ewok scene and you're like, this is great. There's fucking teddy bears. And like, oh man, they're going to eat them? They're metal teddy bears. This is great. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed the opening. I always thought Jabba the Hutt was disgusting and yet kind of cool. That weird palace that he had, the opening scene where Luke fights the... Shit, I should have brushed up on my alien species.
Or the,
what's that thing? I want to say a Kragnog.
He drops down in the jail cell.
Yes.
And he fights
a Kilrog? Let's say I'm going to have to use the phone a little bit more, but I think it's a kill rod.
That looks like a vicious teddy bear. That's more of a grizzly bear looking thing combined with
They're fucked
a
up looking.
rhino or some sort of ravaged beast. I remember it being really disgusting when...
Slimy. They were slimy, I remember.
I thought you...
No.
You're looking at your phone, and I thought the actual name of it was Slimy, and I'm like, Luke killed the Slimy. Oh, man. Episode 6 was also my favorite for a pretty good amount of time because I did like the Ewoks. I also liked when they were on the bikes going through.
Oh, the speeders.
Yeah, those are cool. But as I matured, five definitely took over 6's
A Rancor.
spot at the top. A Rancor.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I had the minifigure. I had the Lego thing, so it's not really a minifigure, I guess, because it's pretty big. But it was just bigger than the little characters that would come with the set. I had the... I guess it's more of like a sand cruiser, whatever Jabba the Hutt was on.
He had that whole palace ship thing going on, yeah.
Yeah, that thing was pretty cool.
They take them out to the middle of the desert because they're going to feed them to the Sarlacc. And again, just kind of a cool idea. Boba Fett's there. Boba Fett always stood out to me. Kind of cool. The way he goes down in that movie is kind of shitty. I'm happy that they brought him back in the new series, that he didn't die through a giant sand trap kind of thing.
I always thought that Luke looked the coolest in 6 in the all black green saber. Like that's
It is. It's super metal. Super good looking.
that's probably the best he looked. And I also liked in the new Boba Fett series the reimagined like AI Luke Skywalker. They did a deep face or a deep fake with like an AI overlay or something like that. Looked really good.
Pretty much everybody in the series has been done, from the original series, has been done that way. Few standouts are definitely him in that. Our Princess Leia gets one at the end of Rogue One. Grand Moff Tarkin gets one in Rogue One, which is pretty weird. Harrison Ford hasn't got one yet, but he did get one for Indiana Jones. So if they're smart, they'll just copy and paste that shit eventually. Where I wouldn't mind if Taron Egerton, is that who played him in the movie? No, it's the kid from Beautiful Creatures, a Han Solo movie. That was a pretty good one.
Solo. So I did see that, but I'm pretty sure I fell asleep in the theater.
Word.
I think the same thing happened with Rogue One. Because those are two that
Rogue One is super espionage-y, and like, it's a slower bird for sure. Until the very end, and then boom, everything fucking blows up.
as everything does in Star Wars.
Well, so like if you've seen episode 4, like we're talking about, the first 2 minutes of episode 4 are the last 2 minutes of Rogue One. Like,
What?
yes, in episode 4, Leia has a disc that says, this is how you fucking blow up the Death Star, and gives it to R2 and sends them on their planet. They get on Tatooine and all that shit happens. That disc, in which she uploads into R2, got to her 2 minutes before that from a station on a planet that blew up with a bunch of rogue squadrons who figured out, like, I know how to get this. So, like, the biggest thing, I get to explain this to you. It's a little bit of spoilers, right?
Yeah.
Anybody out there, too? Episode 4 has one of the biggest fuck yous of all cinema, in the fact that they say, hey, Luke, if you get in this spaceship and you go to the Death Star and you hit this tiny little hole, it'll blow up. And you think to yourself, why would a quadrillion, billion, I don't know, the money that they have to have, right? The Empire, riches beyond what we would even understand through like planets made of solid gold, probably, right?
What currency is it? Did they have a currency in Star Wars?
Credits will do fine.
Oh man.
No, they won't. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So like this $1 billion, let's just say, to like make it onto our planet, right? Think of a giant building that has to blow up, but think of knowing if all you do is just shoot one thing on it, it's going to blow up. Anyway, Rogue One explains that the builder of the Death Star didn't want to build the Death Star, therefore leaving a small exhaust port open that would set off a chain reaction to build up this thing that he built that he wanted to hate. And it makes sense as to why it's there now. And it took them like 30 years to figure it out. You know what I'm saying? So in Rogue One, the daughter of the builder of the Death Star, in his dying wish, was like, bro, this is how you blow this shit up. And with her dying, her final act got the beam sent up where it was put on a disc and handed to Leia for number 4 to start.
That is mind blowing to me because that's great. I think that the storyline of Star Wars is really underappreciated. I feel like a lot of people, think of it as this nerdy, just lasers and stormtroopers, Darth Vader, whatever. But no, the storyline is incredible.
There's a lot.
There's a lot going on.
We could do this every night for an hour and never run out of material. And that's even canon material, in which is considered real. If we went we can clone ourselves, who do a whole separate podcast every night about just non-canon material, just books, the books that have been printed. Because, there's this 3-book series with the Darth Bane trilogy that's fucking metal as shit that kind of, at one point explained the rule of 2 among the Sith. It was awesome.
Darth Bane.
Same name as the Batman villain. No relation, though.
So, wasn't there a bounty hunter, Cad Bane, as well, though?
Could be. I'm not... Dude, this is a universe in which I don't know if somebody honestly can know every name and planet, I'd hope that they have a degree. And I mean that seriously. Do you know how many planets there are in there that have been described somewhere or another? Books upon books can be filled with it.
It's a made-up universe.
Yeah, it is.
It's incredible. So Cad Bane was a blue character, big red alien-looking bug eyes, kind of with the cowboy hat.
Oh, okay. When you say that, I can kind of think about that.
He was in. He might have worked with Boba Fett.
If he's alive then no. I mean, like I said, this is now non-canon, so I don't know where it lied on the timeline, but it was well before Plagueis even, so definitely before Palpatine, so before then Darth Vader for sure, where he was the reason in which there was a buttload of Sith, and then they went down to 2. There can only be 2 Sith, one to have all the power and then one to crave it. The only way you could become the latter is by the former killing them. If you're a Sith Lord, the Sith Lord, you have to die by your apprentice's hand. It only made sense that that's the way Palpatine did it, Yeah,
the Sith is, again, just my favorite part of Star Wars. Like I said, I always liked the villainous side of the movies and shows, and Sith is an interesting place because right when you think a character's safe, they're just eliminated by the Sith. And the only person to stop that was Luke Skywalker, but I mean the movie had to come to an end, and it makes sense in the storyline. But I think that Palpatine was just badass. Vader's badass.
It's a great segue if you want to get right into episodes 1, 2, and 3, especially talking about Palpatine, because we meet Chancellor, whatever his. Not Palpatine name. Chancellor Palpatine. No, that is
Chancellor
it.
Palpatine, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
sure.
what's his dark name then? He is Darth Sidious.
Darth Sidious,
okay.
Yes. Emperor Palpatine, Darth Sidious.
Yeah. Same person. Yeah. But in number 1, we're like, this guy's cool. If you didn't know, because when it came out, I was 9. I remember again going to the theater, so I was there. I was 9 and didn't put the connection together. So I grew up when he was talking, there's that famous line at the very, very end of it where Chancellor Palpatine puts his hand on a young Padawan named Anakin Skywalker, and he says, well, we have great interest in your future, or it's great things will come from you. We look forward to watching you, whatever the fuck it is. It's
that's exactly what I'm talking about when I say that the storyline is underappreciated.
Yeah, it's huge. It is.
You pick up on these little details after the 3rd or 4th watch of these episodes, and you're just mind's blown.
And that's sometimes what I can also appreciate about how he's tweaked it. George Lucas is famous for going back and changing things. VFX, story beats, and stuff like that, which kind of has ended up cool. So in this first one, we go to Naboo, where we meet like the Gungans, and we also meet the Nabooians. I don't know. Also, where like the Queen comes from and shit like that. What's cool is, and why I bring this up is, so at the end of 6, the movie we just talked about, the end of 6, once Vader's blown up, Palpatine's dead, the Empire is really truly gone for a little bit until the First Order. Bum, bum, bum. We see them going to different star systems and looking at like them celebrating, like, yeah, evil's gone. And one of them is Naboo, and you see Gungans kind of like, yeah. And you go to Coruscant, which we've never seen until number 1, which we see for the first time in Fan. I think that's kind of cool. I don't understand, nor have I really ever, the hate that the prequels get. Except for number 2. There's some parts in number 2 where I could have done some better editing, if you ask me.
Do you want me to give my controversial Star Wars rank right now? All right, so we're gonna start off from the top. We're gonna go top.
The best episode ever, and we're only doing 9 right now. It has to be a chapter of Star Wars. No spin-offs. Okay, just make sure. Playing by the rules.
Top 9. So number 1, we're going episode 5. I already said that. Episode 3 is going to be the second episode on my list. Then we go with 6. And then 2. And then 1, and then 4. And then 7, 8, 9.
Okay. So like I said earlier with the dogs, sorry about that. One more time, because I was making sure they weren't flipping out. Go through that for me, just one more time.
5, 3, 6, 2, 1, 4, and then the last 3.
4. Okay. All right, there I am. So wow, you really like 4 that little. I think do I not like Attack of the Clones more than I like A New Hope?
I really like Jango Fett.
Bitchin', yes. That is.
Jango Fett's pretty cool. Those tall white characters on his planet, I forget what they were called. They're in that
the cloners.
Cloners, I guess. Yeah, we'll call them that for right now, but they're pretty cool. And I loved the Mandalorian, like, just backpacks. The jetpacks were sick. So I really liked Attack of the Clones. I liked that style of Anakin and Obi-Wan. And that was a good episode for me. Not a lot of people liked it that much, but it's kind of middle of the pack for me.
Anakin gets a lot of time in that, and Hayden Christensen has to become evil. And whether you like it or not, I really do have this firm belief that, all evil dudes were just whiny, emo teenage kids sometimes. And he had to go through that. The only pass he still doesn't get in that movie is like the fucking, what's the word? The diatribe about sand. I get it. You grew up on Tatooine. It was all sand. You hate sand. We could cut that part out of the movie. However, him being like, when he's there, he's like, I slaughtered them. All of them. Even the women and children, when he's talking about the sand people after he finds out his mother's been fucked up and shit, like, that's metal, if you ask me. It makes kind of sense of where his character's headed and why he is so whiny and how he can get so hurt all the time. What was he supposed to do? Hold his dying mom and just be like, bump, 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 and, get over it. Like, all right, mom, peace out. Like, I'd probably slaughter an entire village, too.
I think that's why I like 2 so much, is because it almost acted as a bridge for 3 to really have the impact that it did. Like,
if he went full evil in 3, you'd be like, wow, that seemed really sudden.
Exactly. Yeah, if it didn't have that setup, that kind of foreshadowing of like his true character, 3 just would not have been that good. I mean, the visuals in 3 are great. The turning of Anakin. I really like the Mace Windu scene when he's fighting Palpatine and he's on the thing and he's like, unlimited power. I think that is hilarious. me and my friends actually have a running joke, where we're always just going, do it. especially Mason. Like, Mason's just always just like, do it. And we were actually on our way up to upstate New York one time. We're passing this sign. And we're like, where are we? We're thinking we're lost. You know, we're in the middle of nowhere. We're like, somebody look this up on the GPS. And we just look over, first sign. We're in DeWitt, New York. DEWITT. It was so funny. We were just cracking up.
The prequels as a whole were all directed by George Lucas. So he kind of came back. He had this vision for them, and he wanted to do them all. So unlike we were talking about 4, 5, and 6, which go to 3 different people, him only doing 4, this was really his to do everything with. I don't have as much hate for Jar Jar Binks as everybody does in number 1. The pod racing is by far one of the coolest things to ever have been introduced to the world of Star Wars. I love watching old commercials, old television around my youth. When I find out now that's the time you were born. And one of them was a pod race, toy of Anakin's, in which your hand sat between the dual engines and the carried the racer that's almost sat at like the top of your forearm, so you can go like this and twist in and out and stuff. And I forgot about it until I saw it, and I was like, I was like, I fucking had that. Like, for sure, no shadow of a doubt, no kind of maybe, I think, no. I had that toy, and like, you know, those movies weren't made for the people, for maybe the young adults, the children, even the adults in the 77, 80, and 83 age. They were, you know, at the end of the day, it's a business. They need to make toys and stuff like that. So to now throw in some stuff like that, like a lot of people are like, you sold out. I'm like, I don't know, man. 4, 5, and 6 had some of the biggest, like when 4 came out, they didn't have enough toys. Do you want to hear something crazy? You got to watch it on Netflix as well for the whole story of the history of the toys of Kenner. Kenner was the first one to make Star Wars toys, and that's the whole reason they still almost exist. Like, buku fucking bucks. The fucking Fox was so short-sighted in making these films, thinking they weren't going to be big, that George Lucas kept a giant percentage of the merchandising rights, where all the money and everything is made, as you know. Like, that's how he became a fucking billionaire, is because they're stupid. B, Kenner made a shit ton of money from the toys. However, they didn't make enough. So when you first signed up to get the set, they would send you a cardboard box that were like, it's coming. You just wait.
Oh, man. So do we know if Star Wars ever struck a deal, or any of these like toy creators that you're talking about, did they ever strike a deal with Hasbro? Because I remember that Hasbro made a lot of Star Wars toys that I played with growing up.
Kenner didn't always keep it. They were the first ones, the originators. Hasbro has it now, as far as I'm aware. I don't know if that's true through the Disney saga, because I'm sure that they have their own people. But yeah, they did a lot of them. But now, I mean, if you're ever, and anybody, garage sailing, you find an original 1977 double telescoping Luke Skywalker figure. Buku bucks.
How much are we talking? How much? In
Hundreds.
Buku? Hundreds. Thousands.
No.
Trillions of dollars.
No, nothing like that. Honestly, now, if you want one like that, you would want to find, and they were never produced. There's only 4 prototypes, as far as we know, in the wild, of the number 5 jetpack firing Boba Fett. The lore goes is as they were designing it and prototyped it, there was another figure from Battlestar Galactica that had a jetpack, some sort of firing something, in which a child swallowed and died. So they pulled the plug on it. So there's only 4 prototype jetpack launching ones. Eventually they'd make the real one, so you could find ones that shoot jetpacks, like shoot stuff out of it. But like this specific one, there's like, I think there's 4.
4 in existence. That's crazy. As far as rare Star Wars items go, I know a lot of like Lego sets that I grew up with. I definitely wish I had now. because I look on Amazon or eBay, and we're talking $900 for some of these sets, like fresh out of the box, of course. But I mean,
even if it was used and you got it like beat up prices, that's what, $350?
probably depending on the set, of course. But I mean, you know, I've thought about buying some of these sets just to kind of put up in my room or put up around the house, and like I look at these prices, I'm just like, hell no. Like, there's no way that I could ever get the nostalgia from when I was 8 playing with Palpatine's ship.
Just wait a little bit longer, sir.
You think?
Wait another 10. I'm fucking proof.
I guess.
I'm proof. Are you kidding me? Like 10 years ago, 1990s Power Rangers toys were twice as what they're worth now. Why? Because we mostly have them now. There's not too many nerds. Like, all the nerds want the new shit now, like that Master Morpher. People are going crazy for that. If you wait a little bit longer, it'll start to come down, I promise you, because more people will find them as well. Like everything else, it's rarity, scarcity, collectability. Eventually, every day you wait, there's an episode 1 fan who dies. Like, it's just how it goes.
Yeah. As you know, I worked at Target during COVID, when it was really popping off, and I remember during that time, Pokemon cards were just going absolutely crazy.
Yeah, just start selling just start hiding them almost, or behind lock and key, from what I read.
Mm-hmm. People were looking under shelves in Target, and I mean, it definitely struck my interest too. Don't get me wrong. I bought a couple booster boxes in my time, you know. But just looking back on it now I just have a binder full of current Pokemon cards that aren't really that valuable, or like, you know what I mean? Because again, it's just a nostalgic chase. Like, I remember being a kid and just playing with Pokemon cards. Everything was Pokemon's, Legos, Star Wars, Mario, like a little bit of Mario as well. But it's just a nostalgia chase that I will never get again. Same thing with a lot of the video games nowadays, especially like I'm playing Call of Duty nowadays, and I remember being like 10 or 11 and playing that game 24/7. Coming home from school, everybody's on, all your friends. You know, you're screaming at the top of your lungs in the lobby at people on the other end, and it's just like nobody's on nowadays. Nobody's on. You get on and like the game's laggy, they're doing too much. I just wish you could get back to that simple time with video games or like Pokemon cards, but it's complicated now, for sure.
That's unfortunate about it. You know, niche things eventually stop becoming that, and they get bigger and bigger, and what kind of made them cool in the first place. I don't want to say it gets bastardized, but, you know, when we talk about Pokemon, they're coming in fucking Happy Meals now. You know, that's how many Pikachus there are. You know, you need to collect them, you know, not only the ones that come in the new booster packs, but you also have to get the rare McDonald's ones, which I have, just saying. That is the cool thing about being a fat boy for Happy Meals, is I do get a good amount of chances. You could cheat on that for a little bit. I held it for a minute. I do have a good chance of getting good Pokemon cards, because...
Do you have the Cinnamon Toast Crunch Pikachu?
No.
I could gift you that.
Well, I'll trade you for one of the new Pokemons, for one of the new Pikachus from this McDonald's.
What's your nicest card?
So these are all I have left. All my childhood cards are gone. I was telling somebody, I think it was Brad, is like, I never had luck at it either as a kid. Definitely did not have any of the original 9. Like the first sets, none of them. Which is all I wanted. I wanted a Bulbasaur, Venusaur, Ivysaur. Ooh, I think I fucked those up. Bulba, Ivy, Vena. Charmander, Charizard, Charmeleon. Wow, why do I keep doing that? No, switch those last ones again, and then this one I'm going to get right. Squirtle, Wartortle, and Bulbas. Blastoise. Wow. Maybe we're smoking a little too much. Anyway, those 9, like, definitely wanted those. No. Maybe had a Pikachu. Raichu was my favorite for a long time. Never got one of those. Just, you know, the luck of the draw was never with me, nor was I somebody who was like, I'm going to buy more. Let me buy more. You know, like if I got money for cutting the neighbor's yard or something like that, like I wasn't always buying shit like that. I don't know. I bought a lot of ice cream, I remember, which makes sense. You know, I remember going to the ice cream store and like, flurry me up. and getting one of those.
As a kid, I probably spent my most amount of money on, man, just going to the mall, honestly. And I bought a bunch of clothes that I just
Didn't need.
totally did not need and would never wear again in my life. Like, I look back on it now and I'm like, what was I thinking?
At least that doesn't change in the 10 years difference that we have between us, dude. I remember doing that too. Gosh, if I had to guess how much Hot Topic and PacSun got for me during those times, like studded belts, sweatband wristbands.
Zoomies.
Zoomies was like right at the tail end. Zoomies came in when I was in high school, and like they still do have like cool stuff, but by that point I was like, I'm not spending that money anymore.
The sweatpants I'm actually wearing right now. Shout out Zoomies again.
I like them. They still have skateboards and stuff, which I'm like, keep going, man. Somebody might buy those eventually. I doubt it, but somebody might.
I was a big flat brim fitted baseball cap guy. So I would go to New Era in the mall. That was another thing that I spent a lot of money on was fitted baseball caps. And
did New Era have their own store?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It was not really a store. It was a kiosk in the mall. It was like right in the middle of the mall. And yeah, they just had a bunch of hats that I really liked, and they always fascinated me. I would always color coordinate all of my outfits. I thought it was pretty funny looking back. Like I was always the kid wearing the bright orange shoes, or like all neon green, or like all one color. And it was like funny because looking back on like the color coordination, it's just so like nerdy. But now I just have all of these hats that I could like accessorize way better. So some of it I guess I wasted money on. Some of it I didn't waste money on because the hats especially like are a collection now. You know, everybody's rocking fitted MLB hats nowadays, for sure.
Yeah, I was never into the non-bend. Always got to bend to brim. Couldn't ever keep it that way. I used to have a pretty honestly sick collection of Star Wars hats. Like at least 4 or 5 of them that like I collected for collecting, wouldn't wear. So I kept the brim. One of them was pretty dope. I actually got it from a friend for Christmas. So the Star Wars logo is the same logo it's always kind of been, with the S's and the R's kind of sticking out, like swooshing out, I should say. Sticking out. I don't know how to say what I want to say. They just kind of go into nothingness. Yeah, bending out. But it's bright orange. The brim is bright orange. And then underneath is BB-8, like painted in orange and stuff like that. That was pretty sick.
That's hard.
It was pretty cool. I might have it. It might be somewhere.
That's metal. Metal as fuck.
Metal as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Nature is metal. I turned you on to that Instagram too, right? That's a little fucked up.
I actually came in the door prior to the podcast and referenced Nature is Metal.
Oh, when the dogs went all crazy.
Dogs are going absolutely berserk in the house. And
yeah.
You know,
they have this need to show off. It's a little crazy.
They're great.
With our final few minutes here that we're going to continue out, let's wrap it up with the 7, 8, and 9 talk. There was giant breaks in all of these when they came out. This was the smaller break between the prequels and the originals, as we call them. So now this the new, what do we call these ones then? The new trilogy?
The final 3
yeah.
that really aren't that good.
Or if I had to guess, not the final 3. There's no way Disney doesn't milk this. I like 7. I really do like The Force Awakens. I thought it was the perfect amount of fanfare that made sense to the story, that introduced new characters and gave them a good amount of motivation that made sense for the 90 minutes in which we lived in. Directed by J.J. Abrams. Really tight script. The next one was done by Rian Johnson, who kind of came in and took away a lot of the things he did. And then the next one after that, JJ got back and kind of almost redid and tried to knot it up. So when we were talking about story earlier, I could see why as a whole 3-pack people just go, no, thank you. But I still, to this day, am like, 7 is good. 7 really is good. 7 in many ways is better than some of the prequels. I think 7 is a better start to a trilogy than 1 is.
I like Kylo Ren.
He's interesting in the first one.
I am a big Kylo
He's mysterious
Ren.
in the first one.
Yeah, and I feel like all the Kylo Ren battle scenes are pretty cool. And doesn't he smash his helmet like a few times?
Yeah.
He's just always taking his anger out on the helmet, man. Like, I think that's funny.
He also introduced us to the idea of a lightsaber hilt guard, which we had never seen. Ray Parker in number 1 got to be Darth Maul and give us the dual-sided lightsaber, which was like, blew our motherfucking minds. So almost in that vein, like I said, in terms of fan service, when I watch 7, I see 4 and 1 overlapped in terms of ideas of like, all right, we're on this desert planet. We got this person who needs to figure out their way in the universe, and then something bigger will call them. At the same time, let's introduce the new bad guy. He's going to be cooler than ever, and we'll explain why. And I see both. The thing we also see is a stormtrooper who's like, not doing this anymore. I liked that idea. I like the idea of stormtroopers in 4, 5, and 6. They're dumb. They're just terrible fucking henchmen. So much so, one of them in number 4 bounces his head off of a door. And later on, like I was talking about earlier, in George Lucas edits, he's gone back and added the doink sound of it. The Clone War ones, they're great. Like you said, I like the clone troopers. This is a new element of like, we steal children and we make them evil bad guys. That's sinister. It's a new way to do it for sure. And makes sense for defectees. And that is some sort of B plot that gets lost throughout the trilogy. But I like that kind of thing of like, like we didn't even sign up for this,
Execute Order 66 will forever be an iconic scene as well. I like the scene where, oh man, who's the guy with the tall head? He's got a tall head, beard.
I know you're talking about. No idea.
Blue Saber. I'm sorry, but yeah, that episode, that scene of betrayal is pretty epic, pretty metal.
It
AF.
makes sense as to why sealing Anakin's descent. Like once you kill a bunch of younglings, there's no coming back from that. Speaking of new shows, though, there is a show that like goes into one of them. Like I was there that night. He didn't get me, and now I'm an evil lightsaber wielder, and I'm like, that's cool. What a fun idea. Like, he didn't get all of them.
I think that was Ashoka.
Oh, yeah? It could be.
That's the new one.
There's a bunch of them
Disney,
right now.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was that, or The Mandalorian, or Obi-Wan.
Watch that, because that show looks really good.
JP said it was good, and I mean, I trust him in his Star Wars, because both of us, I don't know how you felt if you watched all of Obi-Wan, but both of us were like, meh. It wasn't really there. Even the Vader stuff, I was like, meh.
Mandalorian was cool. I really liked
the first season. I watched a lot, but then it got really formulaic of like the mandolin showing up, and he'd be like, the mandolin. Yes, he was playing an instrument. The Mandalorian showing up and be like, I need information. And they're like, I'm not giving it to you until you help. And he's like, all right. And then he helps, and the information is like, what you need to do now is go to this next planet, and they'll have the next piece. And he says, okay. Shows up to the next planet saying, I need information. They go, not until you help. And it just keeps going on until we get to the very end.
Yeah, I like first season of Mando. Second season was pretty good too. The Luke Skywalker thing, I think at the end of the season was pretty cool. Definitely another iconic scene. But then I stopped watching. Then I resumed with Boba Fett though. I really liked Boba Fett. I watched that a lot with my friend Luca. And that was interesting. But yeah, Obi-Wan, lackluster. And I have not seen Ashoka yet, but I will have to give that a shot for sure.
We were talking about Luke coming back for that. How do you feel about Luke in 7, 8, and 9 with this kind of grumpy old man thing going on, because like we were talking about in terms of what J.J. Abrams sets up versus what Rian Johnson executes. I cannot even begin to tell you how much it bothers me that the end of 7 is, in my opinion, epic. You know, we meet Rey, we meet Finn, a little bit of Harrison Ford gets in there. Like, we have to find Luke. At the end of the day is what we're trying to do in this movie. And eventually we do. And Daisy Ridley, who is perfect as Rey, if you ask me, in that first movie, because of what she's given. Anyway, earnestly finds him and has this look on her face as she extends a hand with his original lightsaber, the fucking green one, man. And she's just looking at him like, this means so much. It means everything. And I need you. We need you. Everybody, once again, as unfair as it is, we need you. And he's got this look on his face of just like, I told myself I was never going to do this again. I can't do this again. Like, it's a moments of moments. It's minutes of moments of unspoken dialogue. And then, of course, we go to the black screen and and the movie's over. Now we open the new one. Luke, it opens the way it ends. Luke takes it and fucking throws it over his goddamn shoulder into the dirt. And we're like, wait, what? I hate what 7, 8, and 9 does to the character of Luke Skywalker, especially 7.
Yeah, I didn't really feel much of an effect or like persona from Luke in any of those movies. For me, it was all about Kylo Ren, the scene with him and Han Solo. Obviously, don't want to spoil anything.
These movies came out so long ago.
All right, so where he kills Han Solo, obviously that
it's his father.
Yeah,
he has to kill his own father. That's what's awesome about Episode 7 too, where you're like, I'm sorry to steal so much and like just talk so much right now, but the performances in 7 is really what carries it. Adam Driver is fucking spectacular, and he's got that scene where he's sitting there. He goes, I know what I have to do, but it's hard. And you're thinking he's going to like give up the dark side. Instead, runs his father through. And like Harrison Ford, as old as he is, gives this look of pure like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. Adam Driver kills it. And the less he's given, the less he has. Like, the only thing we really remember about number 7 and Adam Driver is what? Him shirtless with his giant nipples out. It's true. Name another line in that movie. Nothing good happens in it for him. Like, he's whinier in that movie than Anakin is in number 2.
If we're going to talk about memes again and Star Wars, oh my God, you just sparked a crazy memory of memes from that scene. Just Adam Driver, like, stretched out on a screen. Like, it's so funny. Oh, man. He's built like a Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's super blocky. Mm-hmm. Super duper square, barrel chested almost. Like, very, very strange. But given nothing to do, gives Rey less to do because, like, in number 4, we're kind of like, who the fuck is this chick's parents? And then in this one, they're like, nobody. You're not special. Which is fine. But then it makes number 9 seem really inconsequential. They're like, whoa. You are someone, you're Palpatine's granddaughter, you're kind of a Skywalker. So in terms of, once again, kind of going back to the story and the choppiness, 4, 5, and 6, a little choppy. 7, 8, and 9, real choppy. 1, 2, and 3, for as much as people want to shit on them, fucking makes sense start to finish about what's going on, where we're headed, where we're going, if you ask me.
I would definitely agree with that. I would say, especially, like I said before, like the bridge from 2 into 3 was phenomenal. But like, you get kind of lost in between like 4 and 5. I feel like if we're just talking about the first 6, like, you get kind of lost in there. Obviously, I don't know what the hell's going on in 7, 8, and 9 half the time. I'm just like, where are we in the storyline right now? But yeah, I would definitely agree with what you said. The first 3, chef's kiss. The middle 3, okay, and the last 3 are choppy. A little choppy.
The thing that really lost me, especially for Rian Johnson in number 7, we didn't know that we were going to lose Carrie Fisher, but like the last on-screen full performance was Carrie Fisher in this one. And like her getting blown out of the cockpit and then surviving in open space due to some force bubble, and then Superman flying through space back into like, really hurts. It honestly truly does hurt and make me feel sad. I think I told you at the beginning, like, to go and see Princess Leia was like a real thing. Like, I was going to see my friends. Like, those three characters were people who I knew in a weird, sad, very, very, very sad, lonely boy growing up way. And that sucks. Like, that sucks that, like, that whole thing they tried to do. They do one cool scene with what we were talking about when they swap the face. Deep faking, where she's training to be a lightsaber wielding Jedi. Like, that almost makes up for it. But, like, that flying Leia scene it's upsetting. It kind of seems like, I understand how people feel about JJ's and fan service. I don't understand how you make any sequel without providing some fan service, because that's producing the plot. Of course, you're going to reference what happened before, because that's how do you know where you're going unless you've looked at where you came from, in a sense. But I feel like Ryan was like, no, I'm going to do my own thing, and really just throws a bug into the last three. But that's just me. So out of all of them, I guess let's go for our final wrapping it up. One final master list of where things stand, 1 to 9. Or were you done with yours? You really truly hate 7, 8, 9 the most, where they're just always going to be your bottom 9.
You've brought up some memory from the last 3, and I would like to change my list.
All right, let's go for it.
All right, we're gonna do the master list. I'll let you go first because I already gave my temporary list. Let's call it that. So
see if I could do it. I'm gonna do mine backwards.
Now we're just talking main chapters again.
Only 9 again, yeah, because Rogue One is a masterpiece and very, very good. I can't add that. Solo would be another one. We'll come back maybe for another episode and get all the spin-offs. I didn't watch any of the cartoons growing up. I hear Clone Wars.
Phenomenal.
I hear that so much, and I really should sit down and do it. For somebody who has sat here, in my opinion, praised the prequels, I've only heard it adds to it. So I really want. I want to.
I went to Canada one time, like 9-hour drive. And I remember just watching Clone Wars in my friend's SUV. They had a little TV. Me, my friend Dylan, and his brother would just watch Clone Wars all the time. So that was really fun.
I think what turned me off of it in that in-between time was, didn't it start out as shorts? 2D kind of shorts, and then they like revamped it. So I think I just got confused by the whole thing, and now it's got to be on Disney Plus if I had to guess. Maybe I'll go through and do it.
Yeah, I think the whole show, every season's on Disney Plus. But again, let's hear the master. I'm going to go backwards because I think it might be easier for me. I think the absolute worst Star Wars movie is number 7. Rian Johnson. No, number 8. I keep doing that. Number 8. I was going to say, because you just kind of hyped up 7.
I did. 7, I think, is up there, actually. So number 8, let me go through it in my head now. Number 8 is very no, I don't like it. Unfortunately, and I don't think it's fair, but just by proxy, then number 9 has to be that. Just, it's not great in the series. From there, number 1. Phantom Menace. It opened some doors, but in the grand scheme of things now, I do not like that movie more than I like number 7, Force Awakens. I think Force Awakens is super good, and just by that breaks it. If not, maybe. I mean, I might juggle that and number 4, A New Hope. Yeah, it's iconic, it's original, it's the classic. However, without thinking about what I just talked about with the thermal exhaust port and the creator, plot-wise, stupid fucking kind of movie when you think about it that way. Going back further, 2. 2 is okay, Attack of the Clones, but I do think number 3 is better. Ooh, hold on, I missed 6. 263. 263, okay. And then 5 is still
Still on top.
Yeah.
All right.
I should have written that down because backwards it's like 536 something. I don't know.
No, I'm following you for sure. Okay. So you're putting 2 above 7, then.
With the conversation that we had, yeah, Attack of the Clones hits pretty hard and delivers story beats in which we need for 4, 5, and 6 to later go on and make sense. So in terms of story, there's really not a bad performance in that one either. You know, Anakin, like we said, yes, of course he can get bitchy, but he kind of needs to. He kind of does. There's just some things like, we know he loves Padme, we know, but we have to see those fucking stupid scenes of him surfing on what are like those weird bowl kind of creatures and, oh my God, I thought you were dead, Anakin. And like, no, let me force feed you this pear and shit to build that. I get that kind of. But story-wise, it is a big brick. It is. Whereas 7 it's a nice brick, but eventually we see what it builds, which is Tata sauce.
Nothing.
Nothing.
All right. So I guess I'm going to go ahead, give my master list here. Starting from the bottom, I'm going to agree with you on what we had 8 at the bottom and then 9.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that. Then I would just put 7. I still think that the last 3 are at the bottom.
That's fun.
But 7 is the best. I still agree on that of those last 3. Then I would go with 2. Okay. So I think I'm agreeing with you so far up until this point on the list.
No, I think I put 1.
Okay. So
1 there. I think 1 is kind of shitty, to be honest.
I would put 1 ahead of 2. So
okay.
I'm going to go 2 into 1, and then 4 is better than 1.
Agreed.
Okay, it's better than 1 and 2. Now, for the last couple, I'm going to go...
This is really where it gets tight. Yes.
I'm going to go 6, and then 5, and at the top of my list, we have 3. I think 3 is the best Star Wars. It is the most iconic, in my opinion. It's got sick-ass visuals and just plot line, and it was just nostalgic to my childhood. I thought about it for a little bit, and I just can't put 5 at the top, totally. With all of my heart, I really like 3. I think my mom would be proud with that answer. She's a big 3 fan as well.
That's cool that you guys have that together too. I think it's cool too that your grandma, you know, that's you know, I don't want to be too stereotypical or ageist, if you will. But usually older people in sci-fi doesn't really go together. I don't want to be sexist either, but like when I hear of a grandma liking Star Wars, there are few stereotypes that are just seem to be broken in a way, and I'm like, that's fucking gangster. You know, I want to imagine your grandma. Once again, I don't know her. I'm sorry if I offend just being stereotypical grandma. Just, you know, what you imagine when you think of a grandma, except Star Wars shirt, where I'm just like, but it was knitted even, where it's like embroidered and shit. She's like,
she loves to knit.
Of course she does. She's grandma.
She loves to knit Star Wars sweaters all the time.
Grandma Seb. I'm an extra large husky, if you're wondering.
Perfect.
Dude, we talked a lot of Star Wars. As we said, though, there's a lot of Star Wars to be talked about, too. So I hope you had enough fun to want to come back and definitely give this another shot.
Absolutely. I think we have to touch base on the side stories, maybe some of the shows. Give you some time to watch Clone Wars. I think that's a really good idea.
And Ahsoka. I would totally come back for that one, too, because that seems to be like there's Star Wars is now owned by Disney. The mouse puts out more content than anybody else. I mean, at this point, there might be too much. I don't know. There's so much content out right now.
I would also like to reference the theory of Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, shit. Yeah, that could also be its own podcast. But yeah, absolutely. We can really quick go through that for people listening.
Foreshadowing of a future episode, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Do you want to leave it at that even? Leave them. You always leave them wanting more, man.
Oh, they're going to, yeah. You guys gotta hear about the theory of Jar Jar Binks someday.
It's pretty wild. It's a little old, so they're probably sitting there like, yeah, we did in 2014. We're like, all right, be nice. But Seb, I appreciate you. I thank you for coming and hanging out, talking a lot. We smoked a lot of great weed too. That was really awesome. Kept me nice and chatty. If you can't tell.
Thank you for having me. You know, this is what it's all about, man. Buds, bros, and superheroes. Shout out to the best podcast in any PA, best podcast in the world, and Nick, thank you for the hospitality, man. This was awesome.
It was. It's a good time.
Never really do anything like this, so this was quite a fun experience.
Cool, man.
Sure. I would recommend everybody comes on this podcast.
We'll try. With that, guys, if you are out there, you're listening, I got to do the plugging kind of things. And also, surprise episode. We're 2 back from like the really long hiatus, so now this is 3 back, right? And the first 2 back, I didn't remember how we used to end out the show. This time, I remember. So I'm going to do it real well here, guys. Please hit the like, subscribe, follow, all those fun things.
Smash that like button.
Smash it, if you will. I guess that's what the kids say. I do know hardcore, though, that the only way podcasts really get around is like word of mouth. So if you see your friend's phone, steal that shit and go to the podcast and download them all for them. And then give it back. Don't actually steal the phone, though. Just be rude. While they're sleeping, and just put all the episodes on there. Just kidding, don't steal, guys. Anyway, my name has been Nick James. I've been hanging out with Seb, guys. They appreciate you all. Isn't that weird? Yeah, I don't know. Did you tell your mom that? I don't know if my mom knew. So yeah, guys, we're both Nick James. Both of you guys were just like, what's the best sounding name ever? Nicholas James. And I gotta say, you were both right. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Buds, Bros, and Superheroes are out of here.
Thank you.